Let's talk about Donald Trump. We got this tweet from Kyle Cheney. He says, Donald Trump swore in court yesterday he would not attempt to influence or intimidate witnesses, retaliate against anyone, or in any other way attempt to obstruct the administration of justice. Quote, are you prepared to comply? The magistrate judge asked. Yes, Trump replied. And then Trump posted on Truth Social, I guess, if you go after me, I'm coming after you. And now all these people are calling for Trump to be locked up.
Isn't there some movie where it's like, is that a threat? And they're like, no, it's a promise. Like, maybe he's not threatening them. Maybe he's just letting people know what his plan is.
The question, I suppose, is, we asked it last night, now that we got you guys here, why did they not remand Trump to custody?
Because they wanted him to do something like this.
Well, can you take this?
No, but this is now the pretext for them to remand him to custody. They could have just done it.
Well, even if you're a president and you get arrested, don't you still get Secret Service? So maybe that's why, because it's just the logistics. It's like, how are we going to put him in a cell?
I'm saying if these charges were real, if they actually were concerned Trump tried to overthrow the government, they would not let him go. They'd be like, bro, we're look at the J6ers. You trespass on Capitol grounds, they lock you up for 2 years. Donald Trump is accused of making the whole thing happen. They're like, you're free to go, buddy. Here's your passport back. There's your jumbo jet.
Yep.
Have a good
Private
day.
Plane.
Yeah, they don't actually believe these charges.
Well, I think that's just it. And that like the entire thing is political. And I mean, his defense is going to be, and his defense for the next, year is going to be that it's political speech. He's campaigning. This is a campaign promise, essentially, because he could just turn around and say, I'm going to drain the swamp or, purge the deep state type of thing. Well, then campaigning. So
I wonder if Trump did this on purpose, hoping that they actually use that as pretext to bring him back, because then it goes to SCOTUS and SCOTUS throws the whole thing out. That
would actually be really smart, because I mean, it's First Amendment. Like, honestly, if this goes to SCOTUS, like, everybody is saying that. Yeah, everybody is saying that it's going to get thrown out.
I don't think people realize there is no path this can take other than it gonna be wild.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
That's an understatement.
Because at the very least, this has to go to the Supreme Court. A former sitting president, criminally charged. There's too many questions. There's going to be appeals. And then how does it get handled? We're looking at the apex of the U.S. constitutional branch powers. Each branch's authority. Where is that limit?
How quickly do you think it'll get to the Supreme Court, though?
Well,
I don't know. Dershowitz said he'll get convicted first, and then it'll go to the Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
But to your point, maybe this would fast track it. Like, if he literally, got remanded, like, I feel like that,
And Trump needs to be remanded in such a way that is not clear cut.
Yeah.
If Trump literally goes to Giuliani and is on camera berating him, then he's going to have a hard time making an argument. If they try and remand him for something like this, now you've got big questions to be asked the Supreme Court about his right to campaign, his free speech.
Correct.
And then they could use that as a pretext to just throw the whole thing out.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think it's going to be an uphill battle. They want to do anything they can to take Trump out. And I do think they're going to be successful. I'm not trying to be black-pilled or negative. I just think that Trump is going to have to eventually, and I hope I'm wrong. I think he's going to have to eventually either say, I'm not going to run, and then I think that would set him up to get a more lenient sentence, I think. I mean, I don't know how he gets out of this if they're just going to continue to just charge him with stuff.
Look at the polls, man.
Yeah.
He's beaten Biden.
Yeah, I know, but that doesn't mean that's only going to encourage him to try to get him in jail more.
But he could be president from jail, theoretically, right?
Yeah, and he could pardon himself.
And if he gets convicted, they could take his name off the ballot, and then a lot of people will just vote R, and they won't even think twice about who's on the ballot or not.
And a bunch of people will write him in, split the vote.
Yep, and then you end up with Newsom as president.
I think that's a strong possibility.
Have you guys heard my theory? I mentioned it the past couple days.
No, what is it?
Gavin Newsom is campaigning with Joe Biden, and Joe Biden has like a heart attack or something. Gavin Newsom runs out full speed on the stage, rolls up his sleeves and does CPR on Biden.
And that would be funny.
Screams for help. And then what happens? Biden either is okay or incapacitated. Gavin Newsom then does every press round where they're like, tell us what it was like when you ran out to save the president's life. How do you get Gavin Newsom above Joe Biden in the polls, above Kamala Harris? How do you replace Biden with Gavin Newsom? How do you replace him without overstepping or insulting Kamala Harris and the woke crowd? Gavin Newsom saving the life of Joe Biden.
Well, Barack Obama even said that if you need something fucked up, I think that was a quote, then just have Joe Biden be in charge of it. I think the humiliation ritual is coming up, or they're going to make him step down. Something's going to come up with Hunter.
The reason I don't think so is because that makes the whole party look weak, and it there's a lot of people who vote based on party, not based on person.
Well, and just to counter that, though, actually, it would make them look like, hey, he was our president, and then he did something illegal, and we held him accountable. So we're actually the party of truth because we actually go after
Maybe.
that's what I think they could.
They may
package
do
it
that.
as.
I'm just saying that there's a net negative there, because now what they're basically saying is we begged you to vote for the guy who turned out to be more corrupt and did something illegal, whereas if Biden's exit is due to the sacrifice, that and then Gavin will say something, or they'll have like a doctor say, we've been warning the president to take it easy, but he insisted on being there for this country. And then you've got Gavin Newsom. How do you get him in the press rounds? This is how you do it. He saves the life, and then they're like, Governor Newsom, tell us what happened. And then he's got a tear in his eye, and he's like, I looked at this man who I've looked up to my whole life, and I said, Joe, we got you. You ain't going anywhere, buddy. And I knew, blah, blah, blah. Like, it just writes itself.
You think Gavin Newsom would be a good president?
He'd be the best. Well, Kamala Harris, let's see. How did she
No, hold on. Let me answer this. Okay. Yes. If you want to poop in the street. All right, there you go.
How fast
a lot of people who do.
How fast is Hunter Biden's trial moving in comparison to Trump's right now? Because it'd be interesting to see who gets convicted first.
If I was Hunter,
I'm being serious.
If I was Hunter, I would just plead guilty and get pardoned by my dad. If I wasn't him,
Yeah, you would think he would want this to go while Biden is definitely for sure still in office.
No. But look. The plea agreement they had was the deal with his dad. They were like, I bet Joe was like, Hunter, we got to get something. We're going to do this light thing. It's going to be a few months of probation. Then it's all gone, washed away. We got your back. And then the judge sniffed out that, hey, there's broad immunity in this agreement that shouldn't be there. It's unprecedented. And they were like, the prosecutors are like, you're correct. That's right. And then Hunter was like, no way. They're going to throw me under the bus. The whole thing's a scam.
What's
dude.
weird though is, so if you notice, like Karine Jean-Pierre, anytime she's asked about Hunter Biden at the White House, she says, I can't comment. It's a different matter or whatever. The one answer that she gave, an affirmative and 100% straightforward answer, was, is Joe going to pardon Hunter? And she just said, no, that's it.
She answered that question.
She answered
wow.
that does show that they were probably talking about it.
Yeah,
and
but
that
she
was
doesn't.
the agreement.
But
She
maybe
doesn't
she's
need
saying-
to pardon him because his charges are going to be.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Light, yeah.
But my point is, she deferred every other question except for that one. So I mean, it came up, and they were talking about it behind the scenes. So
With Hunter Biden avoiding paying taxes, it's like accidental underpayment and slap on the wrist charge. With Trump, having multiple years where different accounting firms evaluate his properties, they're like, this was intentional manipulation of numbers to steal.
yep.
It's always the worst interpretation.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm all about holding our politicians, accountable, and I love government transparency. But let's be real: a president is above the law. I mean, they are a little bit above the law. They basically, kill people that decide to go to war. I just think that they're not a normal person. So they're setting a precedent where they can put a ex-president in jail. It just makes our country look bad. It makes us look so bad, in my opinion. It's like, cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Yeah, and also how the DOJ is under that branch of government, the executive branch. Like, it's like super weird how now they are technically above the president, like asserting themselves.
It's weird.
Yeah.
But I think the reality is whichever branch the deep state, the intelligence agencies can use, will have the most power at the time. Like the idea that Congress was impeding Donald Trump and they were going after him with all these investigations, when typically the executive branch has had this ridiculous amount of power, because the power is really with the intelligence agencies and they just use whatever vehicle they need to.
Well, the CIA and I think the FBI, they also say that they are the real ones in power because the president changes every 4 to 8 years and they all stay in.
Exactly.
Permanent government.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The deep state, it is real.
So what do you guys think? Where do you think this goes? Do you think that come 2024, we all cast our ballots and smile and then when whichever faction gets elected, the other faction smiles and then waves American flags, we all go out in the street and hug?
Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. No, I don't know. I mean, Kamala Harris, she gave a BJ to Mayor Willie Brown to get where she's
Is
at.
that confirmed, though?
It's close enough. And then she dated Montel Williams.
Love that journalism over there.
Yeah.
It's close enough.
Close enough.
Can you imagine if I reported? Close enough.
Well, I don't ever claim to be a real journalist,
No, I'm
but
just kidding.
They had an affair.
I had an affair, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they had an
It's
affair,
confirmed.
but you see, you're being a little too graphic here. Come on, you got.
okay. Well,
She's a lady.
They held hands.
What's an affair? I mean, they had to do the hibbity dibbity. I mean, come on. They weren't just.
But
holding
continues.
hands.
She dated Montel Williams also.
She dated Montel Williams as well. She was supposedly in a throuple. She went to a couple of his things. So she's not qualified to be the president, and I think that's kind of scaring them. Is what are they going to do with Kamala? How are we going to put her, on the B team, or how are we going to get her?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest obstacle for the Democratic Party right now, what to do with Kamala, because, I mean, when Larry Elder's on the show, he was saying, like, you will completely isolate female black voters, which I don't know if they're enough to tip the scales. On the other hand, it goes against the cultural conversation you've been leading for years here. So, again, I think that's why there was a moment where everyone's like, maybe Michelle, like maybe we can just edge her out. But like, again, weird tokenism. I don't think they know what to do. I personally think it's going to be terminal illness route. I think Joe will announce he has a terminal illness. And I mean, I'm loath to make predictions on the internet, right? Hello. Because someone will wonder, someone will call me out on it. But I think Trump will end up on the ballot. I can't say what's going to happen on his legal team, but I think the Republican Party eventually will realize that, like, if he continues on the way he is, it would be impossible to keep the trust of their voters and have anyone else there.
I don't see Trump beating Chris Christie.
That's true.
Chris Christie's in like Ukraine, right? Like
Doing something.
what is up with all of these like Republican presidential
D-listers.
candidates? Yeah, making their visit to Ukraine. Like
So
I don't understand.
I think they
that.
want Vladimir Zelensky to pass away so they have another Franz Ferdinand so they can start World War III. Could you imagine? Because he's been so...
Joe Zelensky's got to be sweating bullets.
I feel like if there's a
Because he's like, he goes to NATO and they're like, here's what we want you to do. And he's like, okay. But then he's got to know in the back of his mind that the NATO guys are crossing their fingers hoping that Putin takes him out so that they can justify expansion of war.
Exactly right. Literally like Franz Ferdinand starting
Right.
World War I. I mean, that's what they want. They need somebody to rally the troops. And we were joking about aliens earlier, but even Ronald Reagan said in one of his State of the Unions, the only way to unite the worlds is if we had an existential threat like an alien force. So I think it goes to that. It's like they need something like him to die for World War III. They need like that one thing that just the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.